So we're talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you're saying she kind of came from a time when you could be adversarial but not hateful to political opponents, and maybe that's...
Well, it's different on the court because they're not, they're not senators, so they're not, voting against. Well, technically they are. I mean, their votes on the court cases are important. So if she doesn't muster enough of the other justices to her side, then the case is decided one way or the other. So yeah, they're kind of super senators in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't just outright hate each other, but they can be pretty.
Right.
They have to work together for years, decades,
lifetime appointment.
Yeah. I imagine I was thinking about that when I was reading about her record and everything, and some of the things she said. I wonder, it's like, man, you even maybe have a weird sense of camaraderie with these people that you just you just oppose on all these different principles, but you're like, at the end of the day,
you're part of the elite team,
Yeah, at the end of the day, you go home and you sleep in your bed, and it doesn't really affect you. Like that's kind of strange to me. That it would feel very surreal if I were in that kind of situation where I was just, every day I went to work and it's like, this determines the fate of this country, this determines the fate of many people's lives, and then this person across the table from me, or just this other guy, is like just doing something that I just think is horrible for this country, and I guess at the end of the day, you kind of have to throw your hands in the air and be like, okay, well, I gotta go home, and I'm gonna eat a sandwich, and I'm gonna pass out.
Yeah,
like, and my wife is gonna be there. She's gonna be like, no, she's gonna be like, Jason.
Everyone's gonna be trying to influence you at all times.
Yeah, because they know that's gotta be a very strange position to be in.
So you gotta figure too. These are old people. They're beyond that pettiness.
Oh no, they're not. No, they're very bitter. A lot of them, I think, certainly. I mean, if you remember the Clarence Thomas hearings, and he does not like the media at all. All he wants is right wing media. Don't ever show him a left wing paper.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, though. I mean, I'm being real. Yeah. When someone posts something from Vice, my response is to post an article from Vice about drinking cum. I'm like, okay, I just always say, I think Vice should stick to what they know. And someone's post something.
They do have a lot of very, very weird, crappy articles.
Yeah.
The same with Vice. There's a friend of mine who said, like, Vice is either like really good or really horrible. There's like no in between. It's like there's some really interesting stuff there.
Some of their documentaries are fucking like insane.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then they have an article about how drinking cum is probably like empowering or something like that. So it's like
cum cocktails, and then that's also like.
Well, I think aren't there some cultures where that's part of the male initiation, right? You drink the semen to.
Is that true? Is that true?
Maybe that was an initiation in Ferndale. I don't know.
That's how you had to join the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
and that's the last Is It Black or White show. Thank you very much, folks.
Sorry.
Censor.
Sorry, Kev. Sorry, Justin. Sorry, Tommy. Whatever their names are.
Whoever's watching, if your name's Jeff. Sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff. Sorry about the cum jokes there.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to inflame your homophobia. It's 2020, bro. If you ain't gonna drink a little cum, I mean, how do you know?
Yeah. It might make you less gay,
Yeah,
might put hair on your chest.
You know what? I think for a lot of men, if they had to drink cum, it would make them less gay. They'd be like, I know this is not what I want. Like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's sort of like, there's a lot of gay stuff that, you have to be a real man to fucking do. I mean, to take a dick up the ass, I mean, that's a painful thing, so I've heard.
At first. At first.
And just being with another guy, you're dealing with 200 pounds. I mean, it's not like a little
Yeah.
girl, you get to toss around
this
or whatever.
this
is a football game. It's a wrestling. It's a wrestling, match.
Yeah.
And there's only one winner. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the Greeks. We know about the Greeks, man. Alexander the Great,
yeah.
and the Macedonians. Whatever. Alexander the Great, man. He conquered Asia, and he went through more guy butt than anybody.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gay and a conqueror. A gay conqueror.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, the Supreme Court Justice.
Anyways,
Ruth Bader Ginsburg was championing the law for her support of women's rights, feminism, and all that stuff. What do we think of that? How should we remember this person's legacy? Is it positive, negative, somewhere in between?
I don't got crazy hateful feelings towards her or anything, but I am like, all right, well, my guy's in there. It's his turn. Let's get I want Coleon Noir in there.
I don't know what that is, but I imagine he's conservative,
Second Amendment advocate. That's what I care about. Mm-hmm. That's who I want in there.
Well, the thing is you got to think about whether you want somebody who's going to be more of an originalist, who is like a Scalia or a Thomas, or if you want to get somebody who's a blanking on the word, but somebody more like a liberal, that the Constitution is living, breathing, and everything is open to interpretation. Because the thing is you're kind of subverting the legislative branch if you have the judicial branch act as a secondary legislative. I mean, if the judges aren't hamstrung by what the original intent is, and they don't go by sort of a consistent view of interpreting the law, then they can just write law, and that's that would make them a super branch.
That actually makes me think of because the thing is, I think about I read a list of her notable rulings, right, and like one of them was she voted yes to legalize gay marriage, and I think a lot of it comes down to
where is that in the Constitution?
Yeah, where is that in the Constitution?
Yeah.
And also, it's like, so culturally, I'm very open, like when it comes to like liberal things. I'm very socially libertarian, you could say. I have no problem with gay people having partnerships and even getting like married in like this colloquial sense, like just lifelong partnerships, owning a house together, even adopting kids, But like, it's like, does that need like? There's this kind of
does the government have to
weigh in on this?
Yeah.
There's always this kind of connection. The mistake I think a lot of people make is like, we have a cultural value, so that needs to be enforced by the law. And I'm like, no, it doesn't necessarily.
No.
I would like to keep the law open-ended, where everyone has the freedom to have cultural, their autonomy. Mm-hmm. And that's why I almost think with the marriage thing in particular, I'm like, okay, why? If the primary purpose of marriage in like being legally recognized is basically incentivize people to have kids, that's what I would kind of view it as.
Is it really? Now marriage. I mean, when you get married, I mean, what are some of the incentives? The thing is that it's to kind of, I guess to have kids and to start a family, to start a family unit, so that you create the next generation, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Okay, because it's like you can be an adult and you can be pretty selfish. I mean, you basically you have to work in order to survive, unless you come from a rich family. You can't be a total parasite, but there is still sort of a social pressure. Certainly once you get into your 30s, it's like, well, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to? Because the thing is with when you do get married and you do have kids, then it does up your consumption. Then you have to get the van, then you have to get the house, then you have to go move into the better neighborhood and pay the higher taxes and send the kids to school and pay for that. So
you're competitive to get your kids.
So marriage, I think it gets down to capitalism. It's like how do you make you a better consumer?
That makes a lot of sense. And then, I mean, I got maybe you could tie that in with the gay marriage. It's like, I just think it's interesting. On one hand, I think it's valid. Like, I know there are gay couples who want to get married. I've met a number of them, and
we're one of them.
We're one of the gay couples.
Yes.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know me and this guy were married.
Married. Yeah, I'm curious to find out, when did marriage go from being a religious institution to something regulated by the government? When did the government get involved? Why?
And it became a culture war too. It's like that and it was like it's a tense one. Like people were like, legalize gay. I'm like, legalize gay? It's like you don't need to get married through like a government contract to do this,
But too, when they say that, gay sodomy laws are real. I mean,
they're still
and for heterosexual couples too.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't get a blowjob.
Yeah, it's the war on butt sex. Like
well, it's not, but it's more prohibition against basically nothing non-procreative. You gotta go fuck your wife. You gotta make a lot of kids.
Yeah, people want that.
You can't do anything other. Yeah, if you're having fun, it's taking away from giving the state what it wants, which it wants consumers. It wants.
Boy, you better not let me.
Soldiers too. It wants. Yeah. There you go. But it wants the consumers, and it wants the potential soldiers. Somebody to defend. At 18, you have that 18 years, and you have that kid and pumped out. So you need. It's all going back to the state. So that's a reason why the state might want to get involved in marriage, because
plus to make sure that the men are holding up their end of the bargain, and to make sure that the women can't just run off with the kids. Which, I mean, at one time that was unthinkable that would even be an issue. But I mean, you have to hold people. It's a contract, and the government enforces the contract. That's what the point of the law is.
It is inevitably the case, because I know I made the criticism that, I find it frustrating how the culture has to lead the law. Like, why I would like to have an open-ended law where we can have autonomy. But at the same time, it's like, makes sense that people would want their values to be imposed to some degree, because they want them to be the dominant values. And I am kind of like what I'll call like a moderate traditionalist, where if I had to choose between just complete free love, complete just like no rules or regulations, and like kind of a somewhat repressive and restrictive traditionalism, I'd have to go with the traditionalism, because at least that's sustainable. At least that creates families that love each other and raise kids and
tolerate each other and sends their kids off.
I want people to choose that life. I want people to choose that life. I don't want it to be enforced.
Well, it has to be enforced. It's like, I mean,
just like
you're missing the spirit of it.
I'm like, I don't want abortion to be banned. I just want society to
abandon it.
I want to create a society that is so good that the concept of abortion is completely
but the thing is you get to somebody. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that people, it's still at that prehistoric level in a way where people don't ultimately assume that sex leads to pregnancy. I mean, they know, of course, on the intellectual level, but in the heat of the moment, I want to get your panties down, baby, and do what I want to do. It's like I don't give a fuck if you get pregnant. I mean, it's not my I don't have to carry it to 9 months, and the girl is like, well, I'm not even thinking about that either, because I want the D.
It's birth control has allowed that. Has radically changed how our culture works, because.
And welfare, generous welfare, If you take away the incentives, or the disincentives rather, for irresponsible sex, then you will get more irresponsible sex.
Yeah, and it's so that's something that really isn't talked about. This is interesting that we're all exploring this, because I've found that it's like it's almost taboo to talk about things from this perspective. You can't. The public dialogue, the public discourse has to be my body, my choice. it's not.
Bear in mind, we're all men here. We don't have any women here, so this is not an equal time argument. So.
It's not. But I think there's a lot of women who probably agree with some of these perspectives, who are kind of gone down a more traditional path. I think there's a lot of that.
It also has to do with their own personal experiences, because like if you got a family member and she's out there just fucking throwing it to everybody, and that's your sister or your cousin or something, your woman, you're gonna be like, ooh, no, baby, no. You know what I mean? Fucking, hey, take a break, babe. You know what I'm saying? Like, tighten it up.
Learn a hobby.
Yeah, I told my cousin the other day, I said, don't start a relationship with that girl. And he said, oh man, I'm just looking for a little pussy. I said, it's funny how you might go looking for a little pussy and end up with a big fat cunt. And I was like, I know this girl and she's not a nice person. You're gonna go looking for a little pussy and end up with a whole lot of cunt.
I think a pretty simple way to break it down is like, what's the Achilles heel of men and women? And I think for the Achilles heel for men is a hot babe, essentially. Just all sex appeal, nothing else. The Achilles heel for a woman is all provider and resources and nothing else.
Yeah.
He's an asshole. He has no personality.
He's abusive.
But at least he puts a roof over your head. You don't have to work. And then it's like, okay, yeah, well, she's manipulative. She's just this bitch
cheating on me.
Yeah, but at least she's hot.
Yeah.
At least I get that, and it's like
hot,
it's really,
hot and gives it up. Because you can look. Because if you can only look and not touch, then that's just porn. But
she fucks like a minx.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so.
And it's a status symbol.
Yes. It's to show it and in front of men and women, because number one, you can always brag about over to your male buddies and say, ha ha ha, yeah, I'm a stud and do this. But it also advertises to women that you are a good provider, because if you can get a 10, then it's like, oh well, let's knock down his door and let me be the home wrecker, because he's probably got enough money for me. It's like the Donald Trump effect. It's like he can get
with
Melania or any of his other wives back in the day. It's like, they were all sweating him because he was like
rich.
He's rich.
Not just that, but he's like known. He's like
notorious.
Right.
He's the guy. He's cocky as fuck. Women like that shit.
Right.
I don't care. Nobody says. Women like
cocky with the resources to back it up.
Not all of them, of course. Like, we're talking about the dark side of it. The light side is a good woman is going to look for a man that'll be a good father, and a good man going to look for a woman that's going to be a good mother. Mm-hmm. That's the light side. We're talking about the id, which is, sadly, I think that the id has gone to the forefront of our culture. Inorganically, I think it's like being imposed on us because it's easy to make money off of the id. It's hard to make money off of
superego.
Exactly, right. It's easy to appeal to the animal side of people. That's
and I'm definitely noticing the culture is kind of shifting from the underground. A lot of people are criticizing that aspect of it. And I got on the anti-feminist kind of thing years ago, and I've noticed it's become a lot more. It's coming. It's building. It's become almost normalized in a lot of these alternative media circles and such. When I first got into it, I actually went to the first international men's rights conference. It was scheduled in Detroit, but then there's bomb threats sent to it, so it got moved to St. Clair Shores.
Love bomb threats.
Love.
Yeah, some asshole was like, well, no, men don't need any more rights. And
that was many years ago, and it was like, it felt like this real like taboo kind of thing. People were like, you're going to that, and I didn't tell many people about it. Now I'm more comfortable with it now, just
right. But didn't that kind of feel like going to like the National Organization for the Advancement of White People? That,
I actually got a page on Facebook called that.
You do?
Yeah.
The National
Just
Organization.
to be sarcastic.
I mean, there is an equivalent to the NAACP. Some clans. I mean, David Duke or
it's David Duke. He's got the National Organization for the Advancement of White People, And
National Association. It's and two A's just to be accurate.
They need to change their name to the NAAPOC because that is not tolerable to
colored people. Yeah,
I'm glad you said it. I'm not saying those words. The people of color.
People of color. Are Smurfs people of color?
Of course.
Right. I don't know.
The semantical language.
When you get sunburned, are you a person of color?
Yeah, that means I kind of lose my white privilege.
I'm pink.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I talked about too, and we can get into this at some point. Like the categories white and black maybe aren't that useful. As racial categories.
Well, but they are a scale. They are a scale of what is trouble and what is not trouble, and that's why the one drop rule was so effective, because it was like, okay, we can police this, and we can police this less, and less. You're free. It's basically free or slave. It's not. Right. It's not necessarily color, but it's basically, okay, you have the opportunity to become a landowner, a business person, essentially a senator, somebody of the gentry, someone of power. Versus you will never have power. You will always be bonded to the land and a beast of burden and basically a sex toy for the person who owns you. So yeah, the real distinction I would say is how free are you? And the blacker you were, the less free you were. And so then you get into the delineations of octoroon, eighth,
I knew
1/8
about to say octoroon because I was thinking it.
Yeah.
I was thinking
mulatto, quadroon,
and
weird. And you kind of you have like with Thomas Jefferson's kids, you and all that. You get the desire to pass, and the fear of being found out.
Well, nowadays we would just say I'm a quarter black, but it still means the same thing,
Right, but but you kind of like,
it's
when you
language,
think about it.
Language semantics. That's the kind of stuff I love to make fun of and play with, like the people of color thing. I'm like, well, I prefer to call them non-whites. That's offensive.
Yeah,
but it's exactly what's happening. When we used to be,
built into all these terms is like, it's that you can just deduce so many of the person's values from like a term, like people of color, as opposed to calling them just black. It's like there's all this stuff built in. All these words have so much baggage.
And there was
to
a
them,
time when if you called a black man, he'd be like, "No, I'm a Negro, my friend." Mm-hmm. Which is Spanish for black,
or even a colored man. Colored was the good term,
respectful term.
You didn't want to say nigger. You say,
which even that word is just a scrambling up of the word Negro.
Yeah,
so it's like this is the one word you can't say, but it's the same word, just a little different.
Yeah, we really do get fixated on the words, and I think a lot of it's kind of an attempt at, like, I guess you could say social control. I think a lot of it is that, and like it's not necessarily an overtly bad thing. It makes sense if you're a black man, you don't want white people to walk around just using the N-word all the time. Like it makes sense. But at the same time, I do feel like there's kind of like this. Oh, I have a black man. There's a black man over there. You mean a colored man? It's like, or there's a colored man over there. You mean a black man? It's like people just correcting each other to kind of have like this little edge over the other person. Be like, no, I know more than you. It's this.
And even like with gay people, you have gay people that be like, I'm a, kind of like how a guy like me would be like, I'm a chaw chewing pussy fucking hunting for deer, goddamn red blood American redneck white trash. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of shit. Like, whoa. Like a guy at work, an older black guy, kind of a liberal guy. I referred to me and my family as a bunch of hillbillies, and he was like, whoa, I'm like a little uncomfortable with you using that word. And I'm like, but hillbillies. But in the same way, a white person with like a young black guy who's talking about, you know what I'm saying, like the way they use the N-word casually. Like I've had young black guys recently. It's weird because they're just talking and they're like, they'll say it casually, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, why do you apologize? Don't apologize.
Well, because
I don't personally think it's good practice. I think it's a kind of a curse word when you talk in that way myself, but I still speak freely. To me.
The thing is, and two, it's like, and there is like the semantics of it, because it has become, for within the intra-racial, not inter-white black, but intra-black, it means a guy, a person, just even as I, last night I was working and I had a black coworker, and she was talking about, a guy she was interested in, and she said, well, yeah, I want to get this, I want to hook up with this nigga, and and she's not saying, oh, I want to get this nigger fired, and, whatever, but no, it's just this black guy who, I like, and it's just in my group, now I don't know if and then if the guy had been there, he would have maybe said, well, yeah, I'm trying to hook up with this bitch, and it's not like, he's thinks of all women like that, but it's just sort of like it's a crude, it's a street term for guy or gal, just to kind of it makes them sort of, any whatever fellow. It's not, it's not my wife. It's not somebody who I have a nice, particularly respectful relationship. It's just okay. Well, is that
that kind of begs the question, at least in my eyes, like, so, like, because you said, like, this, it's like, should black people own the N-word? Or, like, should there be that boundary?
Well, we should, and we should get a cut every time y'all say it.
Sure.
We need a. We're gonna get reparations, and let's
maybe
let's
that's a solution to reparations.
The N-word jar. That's
the N-word jar.
The reparations.
It's like
you can say it all you want.
Well, you're talking about, like, I can say the word nigga, and then that pays for the reparations. Like, sign me up.
There would be a lot of racism.
There is kind of a boundary there. It makes me think of, like, how, okay, so, let's say my wife, I have, like, pet names for her, like, and everything. It's like, don't call my wife sweetie.
Yeah,
that's just me and her.
That's my thing.
Yeah,
right.
You call her sweetie, I'm gonna punch you. So maybe it's the same thing. There's kind of like a little bit of, like, this is my boundary. Don't fucking tread on me.
Onion.
Maybe maybe it's a subconscious. With black people, don't tread on me, essentially.
Right. Well,
just be nice.
Well,
be a gentleman.
no, but
you can't force that. You can't force that. But that's the values that we. That's what I'm going back to the thing I said before about. I don't want to force nobody, but I don't want. I think it's should be accepted that that's our
makes
shared
me think
values.
of too is, so I played in a band with this guy, and he lived in Detroit, and he was very ingratiated into that culture, and he freely just said nigga all the time. Like, he just said that.
White guy?
Yeah, as a white guy, a white kind of hipster guy. I mean, I like the guy. I played in a band with him for a while, but he kind of I could tell he kind of carried himself like, I'm hip like that. I live here with everyone too, so I can use the term and everything, and it's
that's
like
that cockiness.
But then it makes me think. It's like
also the pandering thing. I got my pander points up high enough that I can say whatever I want. But the truth is, you could always say whatever you want.
You're just gonna have to face consequences for. People might get pissed at you for saying it, And I mean, I find it interesting he was doing that, and I was always a little confused by it. Like, okay, like, I mean, what does this actually mean? And then the other thing that came to my mind that kind of is related to that is, Jessica, what's up?
Oh no! What I was about to say, I think it's also an in-group, out-group thing. Like, you hang out with a bunch of brothers. If you're playing basketball, you're playing in a band or whatever, and then they say, well, hey, my nigga, And then if they say, all right, man, yeah, you can say it or whatever. But if you just come up and say, you come off of the street and you're like, hey, what's up, my nigga? Like in rush hour. Yeah. It's like there's that whole. 100 of years of history, which it's just like, again, like the pet name. You have to be invited to the cookout in order to be able to sample the barbecue.
Take it. Speaking of that, my friend Sheena We should really try not to mention people's names, but she got a barbecue stand, and one day I went up there, and she said, you know what? She basically tried to give me an N-word pass, and I said, well, if I was going to do that, she said, I want to hear you say it. I said, if I was going to do that, I'd have to disobey my mom, because she said, under no circumstances am I supposed to say that word. And she was like, well, I guess I have to respect that. But if it was now, I'd be like, clap your hands like this.
Yeah.
Clap your hands. You know that song?
But here's the thing. You know, is it and you know, when I hear, you know, white families say, well, you never say that word, you know, it's such a horrible thing. You know, I'm wondering, is it really a sense of like in a meta sense, like the all lives matter, and sort of like, what I mean by that is like, you know, really, it's like I want you to be respectful to everybody, or is it sort of a kind of a whiter than thou, you know, sort of like, well, you're common if you say that word, you know, and we want you to be a better.
It is trashy.
Because Adam, you know, you grew up. I
grew up in the hood.
Yeah, you grew up around more black people than
me.
Yeah. So like, you know, and then the other thing I was gonna mention too is like Jessica Krug. Is that her name?
I don't know who that is.
This is a college professor who
was caught pretending to be black.
I saw the video, and like it showed like a picture of her. It's like, you know, she's now revealed that she's been pretending to be black, and I'm like, you don't say.
Who the fuck is...
She's white. Like, she has white skin.
She's
like,
passable anyway. If anything, like, she's one of them.
But she was trying to like say she's like a mixed race, like Puerto Rican thing. I'm like, well, first of all, no, she's Puerto Rican
Italian.
People are. It's not like
she's Italian.
I'm like, well, because she kind of sounded like she had like a kind of like a more of a Puerto Rican, like when she had this accent on and everything. I'm like, that's not black, is that? Like, why is it like one thing, everything that's not white is kind of just pushed in this one like lump, like it's just not white people. And then she's also, why would someone want to do that? And the college is like investigating her for like professional fraud. It's like, because
and then there's Princeton. You know about Princeton, right?
They're admitting.
Is it about they're admitting?
They admitted that even we're racist, and now Trump is like, because it's going to sue them for fraud because they signed a bunch of papers that said that they're not, that they're equal opportunity. So you like your virtue signaling is like fucking you over.
It's fucking you over, yeah. Got you over the barrel.
She just like pandered so like it's like a whole like her whole existence was like just trying to get into the barbecue.
Rachel Dolezal.
You know what I mean? Like
Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah.
Yeah, she same thing. Elizabeth Warren, same thing.
Yeah.
Bunch of white people pretending to be something they're not because they hate white people so much. It makes
they want to get over. I mean, Elizabeth Warren was trying to get benefits, you know, from being Pocahontas, and she got some.
I'm against those kind of benefits. I think everyone should have the same shot. I mean,
well,
if you're poor, you should still have to do the work. But if you're poor, maybe something. You know what I mean? That's how it should be. It shouldn't be about, you know, we need more. We need fewer Chinese and we need more.
Yeah, because if we looked at, you know, just your and my life trajectory, I mean, you would probably say that, you know, you would need more reparations than I would.
I don't need no reparations.
I know you don't. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying in terms of like, you know, getting. You know, where you start out, a grant.
Nice.
You know, if you have well-to-do parents like I did, and had educated parents, and you grow up in a good neighborhood, you know, it's sort of like, okay, this is, you know, your blackness is not going to be an impediment unless you want, unless you're getting in your own way and saying, oh, I'm a victim and whatever, and this, that, and the other thing, and when that happens, that should be dealt with, and you said, no, you have these opportunities now. Now, you also, your parents need to educate you on how not to be deprived of your economic and social benefits, because if you do go into a certain area, you know, the gross point and the education, like with the cops, if I'm in a different neighborhood, then you still have to know how to navigate it. You can't just be, Carlton Banks and say, oh, well, hey, you know who my dad is, and ha, 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 ha. No, you have to,
because
keep your hands on the wheel.
If it is with the cops, if the cops are racist, you might be out in Grosse Pointe where you're from, and there ain't a lot of black people out there. To me, you look like you're dressed like a preacher or something. Yeah. To them, they might be like, look at them gold. Yeah, he's a pimp. He's a drug dealer.
Superfly. What you doing here?
What you're perceived as changes where you go.
Well, where you, the prism of how they're looking at you is like, it's like, how, and how's their day going? It's like, well, we gotta.
That's another.
Which to me, it's like, that just kind of spells out a reality that people don't want to admit is true, which is that everyone's racist. I kind of think everyone has prejudices. Yeah. Everyone kind of, and this is complicated, and like it's not like I'm gonna be like, yes, racism, but I'm not gonna be like every time someone has like a single racist thought, it's like how dare you? We can't even think that. It's like no, there's a reason why there's these kind of cultural borders and
there's all these left-wing memes, right? That okay, you've got a pile of skeletons. Show me which one's white, which one's black, which one's female. And it's like, well, the funny thing is, a forensic...
You can actually determine that, from bone density.
If it was my skeleton and your skeleton, they'd be like, this was a fat white guy, this was a less fat black guy. Like they could literally just look.
Thank you. Like I'm working on it. I'm cutting back.
Coronavirus was hard on me, man. And then there was another meme. They said, for people to be racist just for the skin color is just as stupid as a snake to be racist for the skin color. But then someone made a counter meme that's like, actually, in nature, snakes kill and eat each other all the time, and it's because they can see, hey, you're not one of my species.
My tribe,
Yeah, you're not one of my species. I'm gonna eat your ass.
Even today, last time Jason and I, we were talking about being in Trenton and, me kind of rolling up and self-policing, because I'm in a different neighborhood and just wanting to be respectful of, what goes on, not wanting to have Karen or Chad call 911 because, he's, walking around and we don't know what he's up to. But just even pulling up today, the garage sale or whatever next door, I saw, I mean, it wasn't like it was exactly deliverance, but you got these shirtless rednecks looking like shirtless rednecks to me. Is like, okay, I'm pulling up. Let me get out of the car. Let me make sure I head right in. Let me not dawdle and whatnot. I just because it's not my neighborhood. Now I have friends who, because I've been going to their neighborhood, it's cool because I'm just the black friend, and it's like Cleveland and Family Guy. I was like, oh, okay, Cleveland's here, hey.
You've been upgraded to token status,
right? But you have to, but you gotta receive that upgrade. Otherwise, like in the video game, they shoot you.
Would token black be the equivalent to getting like the N-word card from a black person? Is that like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's token white.
Because I've been at school and like playing music and everything. I've had black people be like, you're kind of like an honorary black person. I'm like, okay, so I'm invited to the barbecue, and that's basically being the token black person.
I love that invited to the barbecue.
That's a great metaphor.
I love it that's the thing.
Because I mean, like I feel like everyone should go through an experience of being the only one of their race at a barbecue.
Yeah, shit, I'm invited to the barbecue. I'm invited to the goddamn family reunion. I can't get away from. I can't get away from these people, man. They're my canned folks. I'm talking about my cousins and shit. My black cousins. And now all this shit, man, I hate that because now it's like there's like this. It was never there before. It was never ever there before, but now it's instead of this, it's like this, and I hate that shit. I'm so sick of that bullshit, man. My cousin's on Facebook, and then one of my Facebook friends called her the N-word, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna get banned for that. And she's like, you should have said more, you should have been all... But I'm like, he's black. What am I supposed to do? He's fucking half black. he can say it. He, like, even culturally, I don't think he should. Like, culturally, it's acceptable for him to say it, and it's not acceptable for me to say it. So who am I to tell him, not to say it? When you say it all the time, you just say it in that nice way. That's, but that shit is like.
And the question is, too, is like, going back to your point about people of color, it's like, who wins when we police the language? Because if we can't get angry and we can't be rude, if only certain people can say certain things, then that's a tyranny of language and power. Because you're controlling the narrative, and it's always the do-gooder white liberal who is like trying to kill the N-word or whatever, but you still have the same intent, and in a way it would be better if the media and everybody would just say nigger, and just get it out there, because then you hear that, then it's not sanitized, because when we say
Bill Maher did nothing wrong,
right? Because when we say N-word, it's like nugget. Nickel?
Yeah.
What? Oh, okay, fine. Yeah,
come on, let's just discuss the elephant in the room,
we gotta have that, and you gotta have the 7-year-old white kid hear that, and to have that conversation with mommy and say, what's nigger, mommy? And it's like, oh no, yeah, but you don't,
Jimmy, no.
It's not, but it's not, it's not Anderson Cooper's job to sanitize it for you. You're supposed to, if people really want to build that post-racial society, then we have to be a racial and racist society openly again, as we are. But we have to wrestle with that and wrestle with each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on the left that want to actually legislate opinions and feelings, and it's like a person. I don't think like a friend in high school. She's the most racist fucking person I ever seen, and it's like that's another meme that racism is caused by ignorance. It's like, no, her racism was caused by something that happened when she was a 14-year-old girl. Big scary black dude fucking tried to crawl in her window. She woke up and he said, shh, and she started fucking screaming. He was coming in there to rape her virgin ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my buddy, we were talking about this the other day. He said, well, if it was a white man, would she have been racist? And I said, but Murph, it wasn't a white man. It was a black man. Like, the hypothetical thing, she definitely would have been affected. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, maybe
I try to talk her out of that.
What if it would have been worse? Like, then, because like most people tend to date within their own race. So what if the men she'd usually be attracted to and seeing in her everyday life, maybe she'd be afraid to date them if there was a white guy. You know what I mean? So I mean,
maybe
it's like
I think
she might have.
I mean, it may not have. There's if it had been a white man, I don't know if all white men would have been demonized. I think it would just be like, this was aberration. This was somebody who, he
was a crackhead.
There would be alternating circumstances than his race. He was a criminal. He's a pervert,
and she might have become racist anyway.
Yeah,
just because she's watching the Beast, the Machine. You know what I'm saying? She's watching rap videos, and that's her only perception of what black people are. Mm-hmm. White people see that and they accept that as reality.
It confirms
black people see it and accept it as reality and embrace it.
But I think there is that sort of narrative that the black person is representative of the negative of criminality. And they don't get to have the benefit of the doubt
of individuality, which is not fair.
It's not Jamal Hankins only who is committing the crime. It's every black man, past, present, and future.
And that's something that black people feel on a level,
right?
Like they feel that on a level, just like we feel in it when they're white people suck. White people did slavery.
Every white person is suspect of racism, and if you're caught, then like it's like shame on you and everything. And
only white people can be racist. All white people are racist, and there's nothing in the world worse that you could be other than a racist.
Right, and that kind of mowing, that, you know, again, you're really trying to shut down the argument, because what you're really trying to do is, you know, if you're coming from, you know, kind of a leftist black idea, you know, sort of the race critique or whatever, if the other person has to concede everything, then it's like a pattern of negotiation. It's like what Trump always does. He always says, "I want something really unreasonable," and the other guy says, "No, I'll give you half of that." And Trump only wanted. Wanted 10%.
Well,
he got 50%. He wanted it all. You reach forward.
You reach
and you get
past
more.
What you want.
Right.
So when they slap your hand, you grab something.
And you still come out ahead. And that's what the racial purists, you know, they're going, and it's just it's hard to have an honest dialogue. I mean, if I, you know. Just like if I make fun of your mother, and if I say a whole lot of nasty stuff about you, then you're not, you know, there's no
Just like that girl I was telling you about, the most racist person I ever actually met. I was at a party with them, and she said something. I said, "Oh yeah, I was with a black girl," and then they start, you know, and all that shit. And the thing that I said that got them all to get up, everybody got up and left, was, "She's not a nigger." And they all got up and left. And it was me and my other friend sitting there. And he just looked at me and he goes, "That's why I love you."
That's why I love you. Can you go back? What was the situation again? You said
I told them, I was at a party with these people, and they were all extremely racist.
Okay, so
against black people.
Okay, these are white racist people.
And I said, I told them I dated a black girl, and I was with her for a couple months, and then they're telling me blah blah blah, she's the N-word, and I said, the thing that got them to all, the last thing I said before they all stood up and walked out of the room was, "She's not a nigger. We broke up. It didn't have nothing to do with that shit." And then the only one person was still there.
That's what got all these white racists to shut up, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then my buddy Pulse was sitting there, and he just looked at me and go, "That's why I love you, Addam." I was like, "That's what's up."
You are very good for that. You're very good at kind of just cutting through and
right
through
to
all the bone of it.
She deserves respect. She's not something you can dehumanize.
Yeah,
you use their language to fuck up their racism, essentially.
Yeah, we didn't break up because of
racism.
We broke up because she was 19. She was going to start college. I think she wanted to just have like a fling. I was a lot less fat back then, so I was a little more attractive, I think, but man, God, I wish I would have stayed with her. She was fucking hot. Dude, she was hot.
Yeah.
And I knew she was going to WC3D, so I'm like, man, this girl's got. I even told her, I was like, man, you're gonna be the boss when you get on the other end of that college education. You're gonna come out the boss. You're gonna come out the boss on the other side. And she's like, I know. I think I don't know what that was about. Why we broke up. It was stupid, but it was just
better to have loved and lost.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I mean that's it's very interesting. I like a lot of what's being talked about. I mean, like, do you think if you could think of is this the solution to all the racial bullshit we're having? Just the kind of conversation we're having right now? Is this?
I think solution to the N-word is we should call everybody the N-word.
Just kind of just distill this bullshit. Yeah. Just make it not mean anything.
We just tattoo it on everybody's ass.
Yeah. No,
it's National Nigga Day.
We call
take a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
And then we get Confederate toilet paper and we wipe our asses with the one ass cheek. NIGGER wipe our asses with it when we put it all.
Yeah, I want my nigger ass with a fucking Confederate flag. I just.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And just everyone's got to do it. We're all,
right.
Like
we finally let the South go.
And maybe
let them go.
We should have a political party that runs on these platforms. Everyone's got to have that with the ass paper and the tattoo. Every white person's got to go to an all black barbecue, and every black person's got to go to an all white barbecue.
You have to say the N-word,
and you have to say the N-word. And then I guess it's maybe like
you're no longer Irish. You are now potato N-word.
Potato like a pigger
and the
pigger.
And
let's go down the list. Okay, so we got piggers, we got chiggers, Chinese niggers.
No. Asians are rice N-words.
Okay.
It goes by your food. So the Italians are pasta N-words.
How about with ravioli? Because we already have piggers. We
I like
riggers.
That.
Riggers, yeah. Well,
the cops are the piggers. Yeah.
Right.
But see, if we did that, it would actually put black people at an elevated thing because it's like
we're basically
the OG niggas.
Is that would that finally?
That would finally make Black Lives Matter happen.
Yeah. Would that finally be the reparation?
Yeah.
Is that basically like okay? You guys won. All this, we're just basing on the N-word now.
Well, as Paul Mooney said, everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. Everybody has to be one.
Oh, that was another thing I want to ask you about because I saw the first episode. You were talking about Spike Lee movies, and I wanted to talk about Bamboozled because that was like my favorite one. Mm-hmm. And Paul Mooney was in it.
Yeah, Junebug. Yeah, he was Dana Wayne's dad.
Says, I say the N-word every morning when I get up 100 times to keep my yeah. See, I love Paul Mooney, and Paul Mooney shits all over white people, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't hate him for that. I think it's fucking hilarious. He's like
Paul Mooney just don't give a fuck.
He's just like fucking bitter old man, and he's like the angrier he gets, the more like sharp his tongue gets. He's like,
right.
I hate Sarah Palin, that whore. That like, dude, I like that shit. When did black people get politically correct with that shit?
It's just sort of I think it died in the 70s and 80s because here's what happened. So you get. When Richard Pryor crosses over, Eddie Murphy crosses over, suddenly it's like black is profitable because up until then it was like, oh well, they're all blazing saddles, they're not, they can't be marketable or whatever. They're the beasts of burden or they're the Martin Luther Kings. They're problems. Black people are problems.
Yeah,
but in the 80s you can start making money being the Eddie Murphy. You market the blackness, and then
Richard Pryor's the one I will say. Richard Pryor and Red Fox, I think, made that a thing.
Right, and then you have the next evolution. In the late 80s, 90s, you get the black conservatives, the professional black conservatives, like Clarence Thomas.
Thomas Sowell.
Well, not Sowell so much.
Been around forever.
Sowell is a true intellectual. He is rational, and he has divorced himself from race.
That makes a lot of sense. He is not
He's not a race man.
Yeah.
But Clarence Thomas, when he had distanced himself from his family, and then just sort of he had made himself this perfect vehicle for George Bush Sr. to fill the Supreme Court racial quota, but he was not an angry black man. He was just he was just a Yale educated
black conservative.
Yeah. He was just an independent. He's just tan. He's tan.
Yeah, and we're still seeing that today. We have all these go ahead.
Let me. But when the Nita Hill thing came up, then the mask slipped. Then he was, yes, this is a high-tech lynching, and then this is not worth it. The Supreme Court is not worth it. The job is not worth it, and this is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who deign to think differently. And it's like, he's like, yeah, he plays the race card too.
Yep.
It's the same,
too, didn't he?
And it's to get back at the liberals like Biden or the centrists
play their game,
right? But it's to shut them up, because it's like, if you stayed on the sexual harassment and said, well, maybe I did say some things, or you can say maybe
I fisted the bitch.
Maybe or even just say I didn't. I mean, with Kavanaugh, however you want to play it. But and the thing about it was that it was an intra-racial thing. It was two black people. So it was like, suddenly America's in the early 90s, they're saying, oh, black people have sex. Ooh, black people sexually harass other black people. Ooh, this is interesting. And
what, they never heard of Ike and Tina? What the fuck?
Well, I mean, but in the world of politics and the Supreme Court and whatever, because this is succeeding Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall is the Jackie Robinson of the Supreme Court.
He was the very first.
The first black associate justice, and you're trying to get somebody to replace that, and Bush's thinking is like, well, I'd like to fill the black quota, even though he doesn't say that, but he says, well, I need a conservative voice, but
he replaced Thurgood Marshall with
Clarence Thomas.
Well, he wanted to respect the fact that I'm filling a black man.
Well, he wanted to kind of co-opt it, though. It's like, it's not necessarily. I mean, maybe Bush was more decent than most.
Did he pick him strictly for his credentials, or is he doing a racial?
No, it wasn't even racial. It was a loyalty, because basically Bush's men, Thomas came up under a couple. I think there was a Senator Danforth, but he came up under the Reagan administration. But the thing is that Bush wanted a personally loyal person, and also a loyal conservative vote on the court. So those were the two things. And the fact that he was black, and the fact that he was young, he was only 43. He could have, and he's been on the court for 30 years. So that's what it is, playing that game so that you get somebody, and he owes you, and he's not going to in 20 years. As some justices, yes, because that's the thing. You get the lifetime appointment, and it's like, well,
that's the danger of a moderate.
I've got gas today, and I'm gonna vote with my liberal colleagues.
That's the danger,
and that's what happened with Nixon and Reagan. They had
at least with someone who's not a centrist, at least you know where they stand. You could say, at least a lot of them really do have principles, like maybe they're shitty principles or ones that I would vehemently disagree with.
You mean centrists or
like the people partisans who are far left or far right? It's like a lot of them really do kind of get rooted in some sort of principle. Centrist, it's almost like they're just trying. A lot of them are just trying to please everybody.
It's like the two sides are fighting for the centrists,
right?
And the whole, all this whole thing. I swear to God, I've been saying this. It is not an attack on the far right. It's an attack on the center. To say, if you don't come to our side, you're fucking banned, son. You're one of them. If you don't join us,
like white silence is violence.
Yeah,
those are
So they're telling you, because this thing happened, that means you have to do something. That's always my number one thing. That
this thing happens.
This
you have to do
suspicious.
Something.
That's always
that's monopoly. Like, do not pass go. Do not.
That's
not collect $200.
That's always to me a red flag for propaganda and fake events and shit. Like, oh well, this happened, so now you have to do this. It's like no, because
I'm just a person.
That's like Dave Chappelle telling the iceberg. That pimp story about
Iceberg Slim,
Iceberg Slim, and how he manipulated.
Oh, the woman, I love that story. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a comedian, and he hasn't told a joke in like 10 minutes, but this is riveting. What a great story!
He's a storyteller,
and then at the end of the story,
he's a griot. He's that African storyteller.
At the end of, I've never heard of that, but at the end of it, he says, "This is how they control us."
Yeah.
This is how they manipulate us, and it is
like it makes sense that these hundreds of years of white versus black and all like this slavery, all this stuff, it's being used by people who want to gain power. It just makes sense that would when someone wants to gain power over you, they're going to exploit a weakness, and a weakness in our unity as Americans is race. And I think that's why a lot of Americans are like, just don't be racist. Just don't talk about, that sounds racist. I don't like that. Like, and so there's, it's uncomfortable because it's opening up a whole can of worms that people do exploit.
Well, I think the thing about it is that people don't, we can't get close to have these conversations because there's sort of, there's a feeling that, you know, if things are as bad as they were, or people say, then no reparations will be enough. No kind of compensation will be enough. But if black people kind of deserve what they got because they're already criminals, or because they, you know, they're sin, you know, they're sinners, you know, the whole biblical thing from
We're
Ham.
all sinners.
No. But
you're talking about
the curse of Ham.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, well then they kind of deserve what they're getting, and you know, then there's also the idea of, well, you know, why, you know, what about Oprah? What about Dave Chappelle? What about Michael Jordan?
The talented.
And you know, with those two narratives are basically like no reparations will ever be good enough, like this horrible sin we can never recover from, or the inverse of that, which is like, you know, well, they're all fucking criminals anyways. It's like, I don't like either of those narratives. I don't think it's either. Those are both just too simple.
But I think the question is, how do you? Everybody has a hard life, and you don't want to have to pay reparations for somebody you don't know, who you don't know is going to use. I mean, first of all, it's taking your fucking tax money, but it's also you don't know what he's going to do. You know, you don't know if he's going to build a business that helps out inner city community or whatever, or he's going to just put it in his arm. Yeah. So it's like, well,
or is he,
you know,
or is he going to act on resentment, because people do have resentments. And,
right. But you just don't want to be compelled. You know, have the government compel you to solve a problem that the government, you know, should itself. You know, make the rich senators who are the descendants of slave owners do this. Don't make the whole American people.
We talked about that with like, the white versus black thing. Is like, wouldn't be just more helpful? Doesn't it kind of muddy the waters? Like, you're like, all white people are responsible for slavery. It's like,
we know who the slave owners are. Go after those banks and go after those businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how the British, fist the bitch. Oh, you know how the British ended slavery was they bought
the slaves
freedom from, and I'm like,
the slave
and they only just now got done paying. They only in like 2015.
Recently.
I'm like,
only
what?
4 years ago.
I'm like, what? You mean we could have gotten rid of slavery without a bloody
civil
war?
Yeah, but we're a violent people.
Yeah, America's a robust and violent country. You know, we have a lot of that.
When you got people, I swear, from the perspectives that I can gather, is there's always this like propaganda push to get people to go into war, and if you don't want to go do the war, you're a fucking coward and you're fucking tar and feathered. And like in Britain in World War I, women would,
the white feather campaigns.
They would humiliate men who didn't want to go and fucking die for Britain. They were like, I'm a woman. They even put it in the air that they were going to let women serve in the war, like, and be soldiers, so that they could further humiliate the men that weren't gonna.
Right.
So you know, like,
she can do it. Why aren't you?
I have serious questions about free will. When I believe in free will, that I have free will, where I could just be like, grab your watch, give me that watch anytime I want, but I don't, because I am a person with free will. But where do you draw the line and say, if we're being pushed and pushed and pushed from birth by outside forces, how much free will do we really have? You know, like, is bought speech, free speech? Like, if someone's paying you to go out there and spread this message.
Propaganda.
Yeah. And, you know, 2013, I can't remember the name of the bill, but there was a bill that was removed that prevented the government from making propaganda for the American people, and it was removed, and everything since then is suspect.
Well, I think it depends. I think what you can do is you can increase sort of your spheres of influence. You start out totally under the control of other people, as a baby, your parents and whatnot. But if depending on your ambition, you can get freer and freer. But you're still always going to be under control because just as a human being, as an individual, you still are dependent on the goodwill of other people, and you do have to be a benefit to other people in order to survive. Because think about it: if you piss off enough people, you will be killed, or you will be left to die,
or you will be shunned from.
Well, exile is almost death.
Oh yeah. I mean, because if you need help, you're gonna die.
Yeah. We're a social species. That's how it is. Period.
Yeah.
No man is an island.
Right.
You might try to make yourself a peninsula, but you still got a mama, son. You're gonna be thinking about her.
Well, yeah. You do have to figure out, where you're gonna lay your head. Where your next meal is going to be, and you have to. It's also about sort of the accumulation of favors, because there's times where you're going to be down and out, but as long as there's somebody who remembers you were doing something for them a while back, you can make that one phone call and say, all right, I'm going to roll the dice again, and I'm going to be able to get back and gamble again. But
that's
if
part of the social contract.
Yeah. But if you really, because see, that's the thing too, like. If Trump loses, all his money may not keep him out of prison, because there's only so many people you can bribe, and if you've pissed enough people off, they'll just seize your assets anyway, and you won't have the power of the presidency to stop that. So it's like, Bill Cosby, another thing, he's got $500 million, and
I've heard a lot of people question his guilt. My stepsister's one. She don't think he did any of that. And she's not a political person. She's not saying that for political reasons. She's saying how many rape kits are done every year, and how many people don't get convicted, and how many people are accused and don't get evicted or get convicted. And this is like right after it happened, and she's like, everything was all 20 years ago and everything is weird. Like, she's like, I don't buy it. And she's not a political person. She's not a very deep.
Yeah, she's not assessing and researching stuff.
She's just an average person from Detroit.
Yeah. I would be wondering too what Cosby, maybe who he angered, because
it all just happened. I mean, he's an old man. Why
universally loved?
Yeah, why is it like this old man who's universally loved? Why is it just out of basically nowhere?
Was it because
he's going to spend the rest of his old twilight years in prison? Like,
I would say that there's definitely, he might have been a victim of a vendetta. Somebody could have. I mean, the women certainly. I mean, if there was even one, but there may be other people who were after him, and. Also, with his son being murdered.
Was his son?
His son was murdered?
Yeah.
Was his
Russian
son
guy?
Was his
by a
son
Russian guy? Okay, that's weird.
Down, yeah.
Yeah, he was changing his tire in '97 and
was murdered.
Murdered
on the side of the road. Yeah. Was he hunted down?
Right.
Possibly, because Cosby wanted to build
This was some random Russian guy, or was it like a?
Not black Russian. No, he was a white Russian.
Cosby was trying to do.
I said like a random. Or did it seem like this guy was like?
It was
professional.
No, it was like. I mean, I don't know all the details, but it was basically like, he apparently he was, an immigrant, and he
shot him, right?
Didn't like black people, and he just, It seemed random, but we don't know. I mean, with Cosby, it could have been a hit.
Because
I guess you'll never know.
Cosby
to send him a message. Like, you're not going to build your thing. You're not going to do that. Because he wanted to.
I'm gonna grab some water. By the way, you guys want some more water?
Sure, grab me one. That's the conspiracy theory, is that he was trying to.
Well,
sway black people back towards conservatism, and they didn't want him to. That's because he was gonna buy.
Well, he was NBC or do something about
something really big. Yeah, I don't really know, but I have a hard time having a strong opinion about that because. But I will say this: something collectively happened to the American spirit when all that stuff came out about Cosby. That because he was universally liked, and he was America's dad.
And he was apolitical. I mean, but even though he was kind of political, and I mean, he did support black excellence and education. I mean, he would give lots of
Howard University and stuff
Howard,
like that.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, I think once he started. Yes, when he started coming and giving like the pound cake speech, and yeah, he was getting political, and he was kind of coming down on black people to do better and to be more conservative. That, yeah, I think there were a couple of comedians and even some intellectuals who were like, okay, this is what's leading to Bill. Yeah. And then also, I think he became more strident because his son was murdered. Because it was like,
he said, "You done took away the only thing I had."
Right.
Fuck, I care now.
This is I'm going all out.
Yeah, but I don't know. It could be that he was just a horrible fucking rapist too. I don't know.
Well, it could be both. I mean, he could, the light and the dark. I mean, he could have.
He had a pass.
Yeah.
He had a pass, just like all these Epstein, Weinstein assholes. They got a pass, and somebody took his pass back. They said, "All right, bud, you were in the fucking inner circle, and that's why you were allowed to get away with this shit. Now we're taking your pass back." Just like Epstein himself, like he was allowed to do that shit for like 20 years before he was finally held accountable for it. And I don't even think the motherfucker's dead. I'm pretty conspiracy theory minded with especially with like the media stuff. I don't think I don't think anybody really trusts them. Some people, obviously partisans, are gonna watch CNN and MSNBC and all that shit and think that it's just fine, and then right wingers are gonna go with Fox News and like RT and think that that's fine. But I'm over here like, it's all suspect. It's all full of shit. The BBC is just as much state media as RT. Like none of it's good. None of it's trustworthy. None of it's. I used to listen. Like I was telling Rob the other day when I first talked to him, I used to listen to NPR every single day, all day. When I was at work, it'd be on. The jazz would come on. The news would come on. The BBC would come on at night. And then on the weekend, all the entertainment shit. I listened to all of it, and they changed. I didn't change. They changed. Everything went hard racial and just stayed there.
Yeah, around what year you say? Because I remember you mentioned the year. It was
2015.
2015. Yeah, it's about the time. It's almost like near the end of Obama's presidency. Essentially, like they're like almost like they knew that they wouldn't get another Democrat in, and that the next president was probably going to be.
Yeah, because it goes in cycles.
It goes in cycles. Yeah, they probably knew the next president was going to be the result of white racial resentment, you could say, which I think is an implicit driving force in Donald Trump. It's like people who so yeah, they're preparing for that preemptively. They drum up like, the fascists are coming, the Nazis are coming, the racists are coming, and then here comes Donald Trump, and then
the Charlottesville thing, which is, to me, I swear to God, that was some kind of fucking setup.
What that person running them over?
That was just a.
Or just the Charlottesville protest.
The people that set it up, they chose Charlottesville for a reason. The people that set it up, one of the guys that helped set it up was all into the Occupy Wall Street shit. That's sketch. That's sketchy as fuck. That was a big leftist thing, and now, that was to.
And now that guy's organizing.
He was part of it. One of them guys, yeah. And then Richard Spencer fucking works for the government. I don't give a fuck what you say. That guy.
Richard Spencer's like a cartoon character. Yeah, he was like getting featured on Vice and stuff with his sunglasses, looking all like almost like sexy, going like, "Oh, white people are great. What do you got a problem with it? You know, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, that was weird to me. Yeah, like where did that guy come from?
He came from nowhere, and now he's on NPR, and he's the voice of this movement, and this movement, I never heard of it. Now it's every fucking 45 minutes. They're
he's a little too media packaged to be real, you know.
Nobody thinks he's real, man. Nobody, man. I go on 4chan, I see what these people, the real racists, I see what they say. No. They make compelling points about that motherfucker. He is not real. If you're sitting there with Charles Barkley, you're not a goddamn
race.
Yeah, you're
not a fucking white supremacist.
He's a race hustler, just like Al Sharpton is. He's a race hustler, just like any of them. It's all the same shit to me.
Race hustler. That's an interesting term.
He's people who, for all the white people that take the bait, the race bait. The constant fucking racial hatred.
That's the thing. Is like, you know, we talked about, and you know,
to control them.
I wrote a song recently called "Marxists and Fascists Are the Same Thing," and like when I kind of course was like, well, one leads to the other, and the other leads to a gun. And what I was kind of getting at with that is like, I feel like the left-wing extremists, they want to provoke that right-wing response. They want you to take that bait, so then you can become the evil boogeyman that they want because it justifies their own existence.
The last thing they want in the world is for black people to listen to what I got to say. That's the last fucking thing in the world that they want, is for white people and black people to fucking listen to each other. Because they're like one of the cops I saw in one of those Fleckus videos. He goes, he was a black cop. And he goes, it's the damnedest thing because every time a black person will walk up to me and start talking to me, just as clockwork, some white person will be coming up and saying, don't talk to that fucking pig. He's supporting white supremacy. Just by being a cop, he's supporting white supremacy. A black cop.
And you know,
don't you want to have black cops in black neighborhoods so that it's
members of your community
I'm
who care about it? I'm
from this neighborhood, and I give a fuck.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a survey recently that was like, it was basically like most black people want the amount of police presence in their neighborhood to remain the same or be increased. I think it was like 20% wanted to see more police, and like 60-something% wanted to see the same amount of police, and then there was like, you know, maybe that the rest of those percentage points are people who want to see less policing in their neighborhood. And that makes a lot of sense. And like, you know, when people talk about conspiracy theories, it's like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, as in the fact that you're alleging that people are conspiring to do something makes it invalid. But people conspire. I mean, we conspired to have a conversation in this space. We
conspired to do this little thing right here. Yes, we did.
And there's a point to it, which the point is like, let's have conversations about these topics that kind of maybe shed some light on some things. It's like, I mean, you can have nefarious conspiracies.
JFK was assassinated. There was some kind of conspiracy there. Somebody
decided we're going to do that. Act in the world.
That guy didn't act alone.
That's the other thing. Is like, don't you think that maybe there's people out there who really want us to believe that this is like the end of fucking America, when in the past there was a president assassinated on live television.
Right.
You know what I mean? Martin Luther King was assassinated. Like, this is like, you know, I mean, we made it through that. I think we can make it through this. But as you mentioned, Rob, the last time you said, like, you know, we're low on morale. There's like this, it's so negative. It's so just like, I think a lot of it's to demoralize people and to make us hate one another.
Yeah, make us more pliable, because if we had a good morale, then we're more resistant. I mean, it's just even on a micro level. Yeah, if you think you can handle life, then you can go through, you know, lots and lots of crises and whatever. But if you think that, you know, if your mood is bad, a hangnail can make you suicidal.
I mean, and I think, like, okay, because you mentioned, like, as an individual, you think, I got this. Whatever comes my way, I can handle this. We can get through it. Maybe you could say, let's get some similar sentiment for white and black people. Whatever comes our way, whatever comes between us as people, because we share this country together. We're both here from the beginning, not under the best circumstances, but like, whatever comes our way, we're going to get through this. Maybe that's a sentiment worth
Well, here's the thing.
Pushing.
Here's the thing, and it goes back to that nigger on the tattoo on your ass and wiping the Confederate flag. We have to really start defining ourselves as Americans and not as tribes, as ethnic, as black and white or whatever.
Straight.
We have to say, okay, we have a common identity, and maybe that's working toward like going back to the moon or going whatever, some other project. But the thing about other countries, despite the fact that they're racially homogenous, which is an important thing, they have that common history of, yes, we triumphed over. I mean, China did what they did to the Japanese, and the British did what they did to the Irish, and they are like, yeah, I'm an Irishman. Yes, I'm Chinese. I'm whatever. And we have to redefine away from the racial paradigm, I think, if we are going to really overcome as a people, and we have to define ourselves all as Americans.
That's like what Morgan Freeman said. The guy said, "How do you fix racism?" He said, "Stop talking about it all."
But then there's also a conflict between that, because what we were just talking about earlier, we were like, let's have more honest conversation about race. Let's not like make it so any even whiff of racism must be buried. So how do you rectify those two things? Because I think we kind of established that there's value to having the
you make fun of it.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
That's what I always said. Like when I first heard the term reverse racism, they define it as just black people being racist to white people. I tell you one thing right now. Oh, black people can be racist to white people. Like, oh no, it's about power and all that. And I'm like, so like 8 black people jump me and they have no power. Like, they could have taken my fucking life. That's not.
Reverse racism.
It's all this bullshit.
Isn't the reverse of racism not being racist?
My definition of reverse racism is making fun of the shit. Like, if I'm with a bunch of black people, and I've had a lot of shit like this happen too. It'd say something like, "Hey, be nice to this one. This is my white boy, okay? You guys," you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or they're like, talk like,
"You're the mascot."
Yeah. Or just we had a friend of ours. We were outside working on building a garden, and young black dude standing there, and he's like standing there. He's like, "Boy, I could get used to this. This is like what slavery was like." He's like,
right. Yeah.
I laughed, and I kind of like walked towards him like I was gonna smack him or something, but I was laughing, and it was hilarious. Or like when you're hanging out, I was golfing with some black dudes, and they said, "Well, I hate to tell you this, but usually we'd let you have," because I hit the ball and it didn't make it off the tee box. He said, "Usually what we do is you can walk up and hit it again for free, but you got to pull your pecker out." And I was like, in front of 2 black guys? Fuck no. That's reverse racism. You're making fun of the shit like it doesn't matter. It's just silly. It's just
consequential. Let's like let off some of this tension.
I can see that you look different. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, we all know. You know what's interesting is like that. Isn't that what people do kind of in the military? They have like a harsh interior because they know. Okay, your name's John. I'm like Jack. We're two completely different backgrounds. I don't know anything about you. You don't know anything about me. But the fact of the matter is, we're here. We have to fight for this damn country together. So we're gonna joke a lot to let off that tension and everything. So
the drill sergeant.
Yeah.
In my company, you are not black, you are not white, you are all equally shit under my shoe. You are nothing until I say you are something. You know what I'm saying? Like, that pushes those guys together real quick.
Yeah, we need a common enemy.
Oh fuck!
We need a common enemy or a common goal. That pretty much is it.
Which the two are kind of like to have a common goal is like, there's an enemy to fight against.
We're all green here. Yeah.
And the thing is that's why America is always tends to be in so many wars is because, as you said, like people want to go back to like the Joe Biden days when the war was over there. That's what you remember you said last time, because it's harder on our fucking souls when the war is here. But that means the war the enemy is not these brown people over in the Middle East. The enemy is in our fucking hearts, and maybe you can save our souls with some good comedy. I think that's definitely a start. And when the PC police came after comedians and started, policing comedy, that's like where you go, oh no, we can't have that, because
but that's sort of like, and that's very interesting that the so-called liberals or leftists are, prosecuting comedy, they're becoming tyrants, because that's what tyrants hate.
They're not funny. And they're not funny anymore.
Dude, the leftist copy of all the right-wing memes. I mean, the fact that, like, Milo Yiannopoulos, it's like, that guy's funny. Just the fact that this is fucking funny, existence, dude. Like a gay, Jewish, Catholic, anti-feminist, Greek.
Yeah,
Greek Catholic.
I think he actually has Jewish in him as well.
He is Jewish. Yeah, he's whatever he needs to be in order to be to be part of the in group, but also out of the out group. He's white, but he's not that white. He's gay, but he's not that gay. He's
pretty fucking gay.
but it's like he doesn't like. He's like. But he's not part of the homophobic. He's still like, if I could take a straight pill, I would. But I have a black boyfriend,
that boy's
husband.
Asshole whistles when he rides a bike. Telling you, fucking, you can hear him. I'm just kidding. You can just hear the wind. I'm just kidding.
A lot of these people these people who are viewed as like racist and hateful. It's like they remind me of like George Carlin a little bit.
He gets a pass. He gets a pass because
he didn't get a pass. He got fucking canceled.
He talked himself to death pretty much.
Yeah, he did.
He opened his mouth and on Joe Rogan of all people is like, well,
no, it was a different show.
No, it was Rogan.
No,
was it?
No, it was a different show. It was the one that has the amazing atheist. And he meant, because that's why it came to the forefront later on, was because it wasn't a real big one. He did go on Rogan, but the thing that got him fucked up was when he went on that other show. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a less consequential podcast. And he said he seduced a priest, and that
pedophilia isn't so bad.
Yeah, I wasn't the victim of pedophilia. I wanted to suck the priest's dick or whatever. Like, dude, I mean, if all the crazy shit that he said, and he got shut down for saying that, good.
On an obscure...
Fuck that guy with that shit. Saying that shit.
But at the same time with that, is like, people did argue that he was acting. He was a victim. He was a victim too. Like he was rationalizing it to himself. Like, no, I'm not a victim. I'm not.
Yeah, but the problem is that his whole persona was, I'm in control. If he were a professional victim, maybe you could get away with it. But he was no. I am a self-made. I'm going to be a millionaire, and I'm going to I'm going to be the twink for Trump and all this other stuff. But he was like it's like. It's sort of like the grab him by the pussy line. It's sort of like, I'm trying to buddy up to you, and you forget that it's the media which will knife you for being stupid.
And he was saying that to Billy Bush, and I could be wrong, but I think Billy Bush is a Bush.
Yeah, he is. He's a lesser Bush, but he is a Bush.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
It's regretful to me that he got fucking canceled, even though I don't agree with what he said. It is to me, because it's like,
care. He's just another one. He's just another Richard Spencer there for
the money.
Left to push all the race baiting for the white people that start to reject it and get sick of the race baiting. Basically, they take the bait, and then they go to people like him are set up to be like a sponge, just like Jordan Peterson. Well, I know you don't like them being race baiters, but here's how, he's good for liberals to come to the center, and he's good to stop right-wingers from going authoritarian and shit. He's good. He's good to keep people in the center. I think that's his mission. I don't think he's a shill. Maybe he is. I don't know. But all these people are shills, man.
Regardless, it's like you dig up someone's shitty statements on like an obscure podcast from like a long time ago. It's like the foul play involved in that. I don't like that.
There's a lot of canceling that I don't like.
It's that kind of thing. certainly what he was saying there was not like the staple of what he was about. He just isn't.
And I have to say though that in order to kind of get a pearl, you have to kind of go through the rest of the oyster, which is really nasty. And sometimes, and that's something that is actually better suited toward academia, where you're away from, at least academia as it's supposed to be, which is not cancel culture, which is not politically correct. It's supposed to be, you say a lot of nasty things like in law school or whatever, and then you get to the pearl of wisdom. But the thing is in the media, you can't do that because you're automatically saying, well, let's talk about here's an example about cancel culture. Larry Summers, who was a former president of Harvard, he was trying to talk about women in the sciences and job disparities. Pay disparities, and he was talking about, well, do women, is it that people really are discriminating against women, or do women self-select and they don't want to do the nasty jobs or the 70-hour-a-week jobs that men are willing to do for status and for money in order to get women. That's it. And if there's if you're not incentivized, if you don't. Look, if you want to be Oprah, then you have to work like Oprah.
Shit.
You have to do that. And a lot of men, not a lot of women, more men are willing to do that than women, but not a lot of men are willing to do. Because there are just not that many billionaires.
And it's like men have more of a, I don't know if it's biological or if it's imposed by culture. Doesn't matter. That's imperative that a man make his way. It's imperative that a man be ambitious. Because if you're not ambitious, you're going to have some woman calling you a fucking bum. Which is what you are. Well, that's how you feel.
Well, yeah, but I think the thing is that you kind of learn, what is it, men going their own way, you don't have to, as long as you can kind of take care of yourself and you have your own hobbies and whatever. But yeah, particularly in the American culture, yes, if you are not striving to be a millionaire and get a Ferrari and
it's
whatever.
Even more in like Chinese culture and like Nigerian immigrants come over. Like I was saying, making the distinction that Africa's an entire continent, and you can't really look at Africa and go, these people are all the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's different tribes. People are physically different. You got people that descend from over here, and then people over here, the tallest people in the world. And then you got, the Nigerians. They come over here, and they're fucking kicking ass over here. Like, what was it? Nipsey Hussle, his father was a Nigerian immigrant who come over here, and then his son blows up, becomes this big fucking star. You're gonna see a lot of that shit because the emphasis, like, I feel like we're losing that drive. We're immigrants. But also the immigrants that come here, they have to have that drive
to come to the whole country.
They look at us and call us losers.
Right.
I think it kind of results in a little bit of a brain drain from some of these countries as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Japan don't want nobody coming in there, and like I'm not against that. Japan is a small island nation with a particular group
history
and a racial group. We are Japanese people.
You cannot become Japanese. You or I could not. Nope. They could come and become American.
Yes.
Yeah, we're very open-ended, and there's advantages to that and disadvantages for sure.
Right.
That's really what it fundamentally comes down to with like a lot of that white supremacy kind of stuff, where it's like they're going against that fundamental idea that we're a nation of immigrants, and I think maybe the idea is you look at America, we have a lot of division. Maybe we should slow down the rate of all this cosmopolitan, all this different stuff. We should figure out our own differences first.
Here's the thing about the cosmopolitan and the immigration. the thing about it was that in order to become a successful American, you had to become white over several generations, like the Italians and the Irish.
They were not accepted.
They were not, but they were able to
yes.
become that. So you'd be, if you're an Irishman, you come here, you work in a grocery store, you do whatever, and then your son would become a cop, and then your grandson would be a judge, and then, fourth generation, he's the president. See, and by that time you're pretty much white, and Kennedy, he still had experienced discrimination, but he was also, multimillionaire.
First Catholic,
right? First Catholic,
and people made a big deal about it.
But he was beloved, except by the people who killed him. But but it was still, you had that progression. And one of the things that regardless of how you feel about him, John James, who's running for Senate here in Michigan, he has the same thing, but for his own story, but for a black, and he divorces it, interestingly, from slavery. It's not a civil rights or a civil rights story either. It's like, my grandfather was a sharecropper, my father was a small business owner, I'm a big business owner, and I want to be the senator, the first one to be the senator.
Sound like you come from a line of ambitious motherfuckers.
Right. And it's sort of, and it's not the, we have to protest, and I have to be, like another Martin Luther King, or I have to be another Malcolm X, but it's the immigrant story. And I think that's very deliberate on his part, because it'll appeal to a wider swath of voters, because he's a Republican. But if he went the other route, that this is protest, then he'd have to run as a Democrat.
He could win because all the Republicans are gonna vote for him because he's a Republican. Yeah. And some of the black people are going to vote for him just because he's black. And the Republicans are going to love voting for a black Republican. They're going to love that. Because one thing, let's say, they're not innocent, dude. The Republican Party, they pander their fucking pants off. And, black unemployment's at the lowest, and Hispanic unemployment's at the lowest. And it's like, dude, what happened to America? What happened to for one thing, I don't want to hear you talking about how great white people are doing, but I'm really sick of hearing them talking about, I'm good for blacks. Like, dude, get that shit. Get rid of that.
Here's what I was going to bring up is, regarding the immigration thing, is so America has a unique setup in that it's like anyone can come here, anyone can make their way, and they can follow that trajectory you mentioned of over the generations building up and becoming successful. That's the American dream. And one of the things I compare this to, when I was making an argument, I was being critical of Islam, and it's like basically
Islam kind of sucks.
Okay, so what I was saying is I'm like, look, this isn't me. I don't hate Muslim people. I don't hate anybody, but I'm just saying we already have such a long history of clashes between people who are Christians trying to push their religion to politics,
Catholics and Protestants,
and then it's so you want to add another religion into the fray, and maybe you could say the same thing of race and cultures. You want to add white and black people, we've been here for hundreds of years, and we're still struggling to figure this shit out. Now we're going to add another person into that conflict.
Kind of person.
It's maybe we should slow down for a little bit, because maybe this open-endedness of everyone can come here, maybe that's not really as sustainable as we like to believe it is. Maybe it pulls at the seams, and it kind of erodes the structure that keeps together of nationalism.
But Jason, what about the poem on the Statue of Liberty? What about the poem on the Statue of Liberty?
Oh, what is it? Some
basically give us your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free.
Dude, it's a great fucking ideal, but somehow maybe we gotta slow down. Maybe
it's not law. People act like that poem is law, and it's not. It's a nice thing.
We should help as many people as possible, but sometimes you gotta.
I think you have to figure out what America's mission is. I mean, if America's mission is just to make money, however you do it, then you gotta figure out who's the best. I mean, you gotta look at you gotta compare the other immigration policies of other nations, and better to do apples to apples with other multiracial countries, like Canada or
Mexico.
Yeah,
Mexico has a law
or Britain.
Mexico has a law that will stop the population from going under 65% Mexican or something like that. They have literally nationalist policies.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
And Israel too. Israel's like fucking. Oh, we were going to talk about ethnic supremacy and different groups. Israel has the same policies that the goddamn Klan would put in place.
Just for Jewish people.
Yeah, it's fucking insane, dude.
Well, that's the thing is like you look at these Western countries that have that they let everybody in. It's like they're really struggling. Like I worry about China. China is not being pulled apart by these kind of cultural and racial divisions. They're just growing, and I mean they have a lot of other problems, but I look at like the people of the most power, they're going to start calling the shots. That's just how life works. And if the people of the most power don't have those Western values of open-endedness and multiracialness and freedom of speech, then those people are going to be calling the shots. So like you have to, like, what's the point? If it's a contradiction. Like these values as a country, in pursuit of those values, we actually erode our foundations, so we can't even uphold those values anymore. I kind of feel like that's happening, and that maybe we have to check ourselves. Like we have to be realistic. Like how multicultural can we really afford to be?
China's about to bend Africa over the fucking sink, bro, and ram. Dude, China's moving in there. They don't give a fuck about. They don't got no.
Oh, they're racist.
They don't got no guilt about their. Yeah, do they see that?
They think that. I mean, let's get into the whole ethnocentric.
They write shit. They don't give a.
Just like in Japan, you'll never be Chinese if you go over there and you immigrate there. You can learn the language. You could
Japanese.
Well, I mean, in China.
Like, and I like Japan, but I like Japan, and I think that's I
certainly like Japan more than I like China, because Japan just does their thing, and but China, it's like there's that aggression that's similar to America's, but it's minus those Western values that I really love Western values.
It's the communist authoritarianism mixed with the greed of the capital, the negative side of capitalism, and the really, really ugly side of communism as one fucking thing. And they're just like, their people are cattle. You do what we say. You can't, you'd be fucking thrown in a fucking, basically, let's call it a gulag. They got Muslims in gulags. I don't want to fucking throw Muslims in camps and shit. I just don't want fucking broad brush. Come on in, everybody. Borders, no borders. Like, dude, we do have borders. I don't give a fuck about that shit. We have borders.
I mean, we do have to have honest conversations about who is against our interests as maintaining. I mean, what is it that we maintain dominance other than military?
Yeah,
America could it be culturally or scientifically? I mean, that would be nice if we could get back to being scientifically, mathematically competitive.
I often kind of think of it, not to interrupt, but like I think about my own personal life when I balance a lot of music projects. It's like, well, there's an idealistic part of me wants to be able to do everything and wants to be able to help everyone's musical visions be realized. It's like, well, if I do that, then I just exhaust myself, do it too much. I exhaust myself to the point where I can't realize anyone's vision. You know what I mean? I can't record everyone's project. I can't be in everyone's band, even if I love them all very much. It's like, so you kind of have there's that realism, but you need power to.
Another thing we have to remember,
ideals.
Like we were talking about the Irish and the Italians. Another thing we have to remember is that when the Italians came over here, we got the mafia, we got the mob, and we got all these people.
We went through some shit.
And basically, when the Irish came over here, we ended up getting Whitey Bulger and Irish Mafia. And, we even had the Purple Gang is super Jewish, and there were a bunch of immigrants that came over here, and they were, because they don't have a stake in the
mother country. They're opportunists.
You're always going to have an element of that.
Criminality.
You're always going to have an element of that, especially if they come up. People. That's the thing I don't like about Black Lives Matter. They're preaching an ideology to Black Americans that you're an outsider here. You're a alien in an alien land, and this government don't give a fuck about you. And that flag, don't salute that flag. Fuck that flag. Fuck that anthem. You know, that's all a bunch of white people bullshit. Don't listen to nothing white people got to say because they're a bunch of assholes and they fucking secretly hate you and blah, blah, on and on, dude. Like, this shit they say is like, you're convincing these people that they're not free. That's not dangerous. They're like fucking constantly with these, Lord Jamar called it negative affirmations. You know, like constantly with this negative shit, like, bro, what happened to get your money up? Come on, get your money up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this
Right. There is a sense of promoting dependence on big leftist or big government, whatever you want to call it. It's like, you know, we will be collective. You know, if you only listen to us, if you don't play this capitalist game, then you're really free. But you have to do it with us and whatever. But if if you're able to provide, I mean, it's a white man's game to want to do generational wealth, even though that's not. It's the worldwide thing. You know, being able to pass down. And creating a legacy, and your family being able to just improve over the years, over the generations. But people are so divorced from history and divorced from the world. It's like, well, okay, yeah, maybe I can be a victim, and maybe it'll be profitable. But you're not thinking of you're not thinking of down the line. You're not thinking of a legacy, and that's what people have to learn. They have to think about their legacy.
That's so true. That's always something I say. I want to deal with people. That's why I don't have nothing against like black nationalists, because they love black people. They love being black. They're thinking about the pride and their heritage. I like people that like their heritage. I like people that show honor to their ancestors and say, man, my ancestors came over here stacked like fucking... like worse than animals. At least an animal gets his own cage.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
See, so that's sort of the issue, with MLK, because he probably would be in the Black Lives Matter sort of redistributive. The government owes you something, and we're going to go and we're going to get our check, and this is if only we can get this back, get what we're owed. The question should have been, how do we continue building Black Wall Street? It was destroyed, but how do we rebuild it? How do we, if they're going to segregate us, then how do we thrive ourselves? Because maybe we can't be beggars. I mean, he had the genius to kind of use the media to shame white people into leaving their most naked racism, just making it a worldwide issue. And you got to also remember that the powers that be were also when this was being broadcast and we were in the Cold War, Republicans, like Nixon, were like, well, this is a security issue because they can use this as our human rights issue. They're putting people in gulags. We're sicking dogs on our blacks. Mm-hmm. So
we're forcing them to
live in second, third tier lives.
Like the example I gave you the other day, you said about equal competition, and I said, because if you're black and you're not allowed to go to the fucking hardware store,
right?
As a tradesman. You gotta go to the fucking hardware store and get your fucking tools and equipment, material, and if you got go to the black hardware store. Who the fuck has a fucking? It's like you represent 8% of the population around here, so somebody in that 8% better build a fucking hardware store. You know what I'm saying? That's bullshit. That's not.
See, the thing about racism is that it also it just sort of perpetuates a
prison.
Well, a prison and a sense of entitlement. It's like the white supremacist is like, I don't have to achieve anything because I was born white. My forefathers were white and they did something great, and I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is shepherd it, even though you might be deliverance. You know,
and I'm gonna be held back for doing what I'm gonna be held back from succeeding and doing anything that I want in any opportunities because of my opinions. So you're doing the same thing that a lot of the Black Lives Matter people are doing.
Right.
I'm black, so I can't get ahead because of all this intangible shit that.
Right.
You're doing the same thing.
Yeah. It's just again they want to get mind slaves. You know, just people. You know, the guy at the top. You know, the Grand Wizard or whoever the fuck it is, and the racist organization. It's just like, well, we want a gang, you know, we want people to, you know, or like an organized religion, you know, it's like, yeah, you guys, you know, prosperity gospel, yada yada yada, get me a mansion,
I
and
hate those motherfuckers, dude.
You know,
I hate
and
them.
Falwell really got. I mean, now he's the fall of Falwell. I mean, that's a pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't like Joel Osteen, Creflo Dollar. None of them people. They're all a bunch of goddamn charlatans, and they will burn. I can't. Hey man, if God is real, those people are gonna burn forever, dude. burn, you motherfucker.
But yeah, the thing is that I think, you know, in addition to having the idea of a legacy, I think you have to start having that sense of rugged individualism. You know, you have to reintroduce it to the racist, the white poor and the black poor, and you have to say, okay, you need to learn how to build shit. I don't know. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
You know, maybe your dream is, you know, you want to own your barbershop, or maybe you want to, you know, be a Spike Lee, or maybe you want to do this or that and the other thing. But you have to create that dream, and it's not always going to be, and some of it is going to be competitiveness. It's going to be, you know, not necessarily a racial. I mean, yeah, they're because of their different races, there will be, but you still have to want to build something for your family,
for your progeny.
Not yes. Maybe not necessarily for your people. You know, you can ally with other races and whatever to get forward, but you want to make your neighborhood better than what it was when you were born. When you die, you want them to say, yes, we got some streets paved, and we have a
my people.
Yeah.
The American people.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Maybe there's a way where you can have common racial identities, and they can exist with each other with the least amount of antagonism as possible, and maybe the way to do that is with a common American identity umbrella. Because I feel like you're not going to get rid of the racial identity completely, but you can make it so it's positive for you.
You can also try to include, or in addition to the comedy making fun of the racial hang-ups, emphasizing the similarities. You know, the Irish, you know, and the blacks, or the Jews and the blacks. You know, trying to, instead of saying, well, you know, the blacks had it worse with all this stuff, and you know, the Jews are greedy, and then the Irish are drunks. You know, just say, hey, you know, we were all under the thumb of you know somebody. And we're all very ingenious, you know. Muhammad Ali was a great boxer, and
so is Tyson Fury.
And you know, you get these commonalities.
And
you
Mike Tyson was molded by Customato.
Yeah.
If Customato could have lived another 10 years, Mike Tyson's whole life would have been a completely different trajectory.
Right.
He finally had a father. Yeah. And it was this white man. Mm-hmm. And then he died, and then Don King replaced him as his father figure. And fuck that dude. Right.
And that's shit. And now he was a viper for many black boxers.
Yeah, he fucking his own. You know, he ain't helping nobody. He's a fucking snake, dude. Yeah, that guy's a piece of shit. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. You got to have collaboration. That's when we all do the best. That's when you get... Eminem don't make it unless he gets that fucking phone call with Dr. Dre. Eminem stays obscure. You know what I mean? But if Dr. Dre hears this shit, he's like, oh shit, I'm about to put this white boy on. He's about to be... He's sitting there in the studio recording his shit, and he's like, you're about to be you're about to be a big fucking deal. And he was, you know, but without... And, you know, without black people listening to Eminem, he don't go nowhere because it's a black music thing.
Yeah, black dominated market, you know, genre.
You know, black folks listening to Eminem. You can just read the fucking YouTube comments. They're like, hey, you know, I hate to admit this, but that white boy's the greatest rapper alive. You know what I'm saying? There's some reverse racism for you. I hate to admit this, you know, but...
I mean, yeah. You could say maybe it's a little similar to, I mean, a lot of American inventions in Japan, they took that shit and they refined it and made it even a little bit better.
And culturally, the Japanese latch onto our culture and shit.
I mean,
so
even with you know, jazz music's kind of rooted in European harmony, and then there's a lot of really awesome black artists who took that and just innovated
and actually
it,
the instruments were crafted and refined, and you know, you got like the piano, the well-tempered clavier with all that shit, and then you give those instruments to black people, and maybe I don't think nobody else was gonna come up with jazz. I don't think nobody but black people are gonna come up with jazz. I mean, you could argue there were some white guys in there too, and blues too. You know, two of my favorite blues musicians, Skip James, Mississippi John Hurt, they were kind of taught how to play the guitar by a white guy, but I never heard none of his shit. But I don't think...
Yeah, there's this really cool back and forth going on where you have... white people invented these instruments, and then black people like ripped it up on them, and then
got their hands on it.
But then you also see like the you know, you have black people in the South kind of come up with blues and a lot of the and New Orleans swing and stuff like that, and then white people add their harmony to it, and then you have black innovators come in and refine the harmony, and then
Louis
gospel
Prima comes
music.
in, and they're like, I actually heard somebody say, I seen somebody trying to say that the song from the Jungle Book was racist. I want to be like you, because they're
like,
automatically
he's a monkey and he's going back to
be like
white.
So it's like a black man that wants to be like a white man.
But Louis
like,
wasn't black.
No, but
they think he was.
Louis was like in New Orleans watching these black jazz musicians.
So it's irony.
It's the complete opposite.
I want to be like a brother.
Like you. Yeah. I want to be like a brother. That's right.
Wow.
Yes. People are knee, but there's always going to be stupid people that knee jerk. They don't fucking even know who Louis Prima is.
Yeah, that's true. But it's like, people. You can't give people so much credit.
We make fun of those people though. When people say ignorant shit like that, you just go and. Louis Prima probably wrote the song thinking that too about, but I mean, obviously it's about the Jungle Book, and in the Jungle Book that was a reoccurring theme, that the wolves, when they looked at Mowgli, they wanted to kill Mowgli because they could sense that he was above them because he is a human, and when he would look the wolves in the eye, they didn't like it because they felt that you're in our territory. We're not in human land. We're in the jungle, bitch. So that's when that was not in the movie, but in the book. So when the alpha dog died, they ran Mowgli out of the pack. So he was raised by wolves, but he was rejected by the wolves because he was a human, and it's unnatural. He shouldn't have never been there. Which is maybe Rudyard Kipling was talking about
colonialism.
Colonialism and a racial element there. Maybe that was a subtext. Because, I mean, I believe he wrote The Jungle, and basically the story of The Jungle was there's these white people that were it was a short story, they were on vacation in some place that was non-white, and then some massive fucking war happened, and basically like 95% of all the white people got wiped off the face of the earth. And so they're like, oh, fuck. That's the jungle, you know? That's the racial jungle that Joe Biden was talking about, I guess, maybe. Maybe that's what he was talking about. So they're like in a foreign land, and they're like, well, this is a nice novelty to be around all these people that are different than us, but because of, which is now, you know, now we can get into a negative stereotypes about white people, because of this thing that we do, we are now completely without a home, completely without any sense of a, you know, a home. Now we're always going to be in the novelty. You know, they touch on that, and now that's just some negative stereotype about white people that's true. Like when white people, it takes them a long time to get angry, and then when they fucking had enough, they start fucking goose stepping and shit. But I mean, they're goose stepping now. They're goose stepping in Portland, dude. That's what I call it. Fucking what else is it? They're not as organized as them guys were, or disciplined, but they're still just fucking busting windows and burning shit down and making demands. Like fucking, I got no respect for that.
Yeah, it is like this kind of people. I almost feel like some of those white people, they're so self-hating, and they think everything's so racist and terrible that like there's like this kind of other darkness within them that's kind of brewing up of like actual white identity, like actual like aggression stemming from their own race. Like they actually feel kind of backed into a corner, but they shove that down by projecting and externalizing that feeling, because they really do. It's like
they feel it and they want to project it on their political enemies.
Yeah, like they take all that and they just go, no, I'm not going to feel small and backed into a corner. I'm just going to go attack white people. I'm going to hate white people, and I really do sense that, because you know, even sometimes when I talk with some of them, they're just like, oh, like don't you want to be on the right side of history? It's like, yeah, they're afraid of dying. I think they're afraid of being erased, and so they go, well, if I just get on these radical politics,
the right side of history,
I'm going to be on the right side.
The winner.
Yeah, I'm going to win. I want to win.
So I'm going to side with the people I think are going to win.
Yeah, and so it's, and a lot of them, they really they fetishized power. They really do. They want.
You got these NFAC dudes. They're talking about, we're gonna take Texas and shit. We'll take Texas. By God, I tell you, you will not. Ask the Mexicans about that shit. Ask them about the Alamo. And people in Texas still remember the Alamo. By God, you will not. Like, that guy's a fucking asshole, and he's a fucking shill. He's working for somebody, dude. You know what I'm talking about. NFAC, all that shit.
What's NFAC?
I got a bunch of black people wandering around with their fucking rifles out in the woods looking for the Klan and shit. Like, saying, you're gonna give us, we're sick of talking, we're not talking no more. He's making threats, basically, of fucking war. And saying he wants to segregate. They're pushing for segregation.